Do you suck at speaking? Is it hard for you to get the thoughts that are in your head out of your mouth in a way where A, people can actually understand what you're trying to say, but also B, where people will view you in a way where you don't seem super nervous and unsure of yourself? If you answered yes to either of those questions, please just never talk again. Obviously, I'm joking. Today is your lucky day because by the end of today's video, you're gonna know exactly what you need to do to become a charismatic and effective communicator. So back in high school, I really struggled with public speaking. And it was honestly so bad that if I had to choose between two different rooms and one room was filled with venomous snakes or the other room was a room where I had to present a presentation to a class, I 1000% would pick the snakes. And whenever I was a senior in high school, I remember I had this big group presentation for a US history class. And I think it had something to do with the history of the US Navy or some boring thing that nobody cares about, unless you're in the Navy. But anyway, we got our groups, we all had to get together, we had to do a bunch of research, we had to build out a PowerPoint presentation, and obviously, we had to pick the slides that we were gonna present to the class. And of course, our grade was 100% dependent upon how well we spoke and how well we presented that information to the class. Now, I distinctly remember looking at the other members of my group and saying,
hey guys, I'm pretty bad at public speaking. I get pretty nervous. So can I please have one of the smaller slides or the smallest amount of information to present? Would that be okay?
So I literally ended up presenting one slide of information. That was it. So fast forward to presentation day. There's 5 or 6 other groups that are gonna be presenting. And of course, my group is presenting last. So I'm watching boring presentation after boring presentation. I'm sitting in my desk and I can start to feel this pit of anxiety starting to develop inside of my chest. And as I watch each group get up, present, sit down, get up, present, sit down, I just feel the anxiety and the stress is just getting stronger and stronger. So obviously, I'm not feeling too good at this point. I want you to imagine for a second, just imagine that you're in my shoes. And I want you to also keep in mind that there's a bunch of girls in this class that you have a crush on. And also, you haven't said a single word to any of these girls for the entire semester. So there's actually a lot more that's riding on this presentation. This is your big shot to make your first big impression for these girls. You wanna wow them with your charisma. No, you need to wow them with your charisma. You need to stand out. You need to look confident and strong up there whenever you're talking. This is your first big shot to make a good impression. You can't blow this. Really think about this for a second. How would you feel in that moment? Would you be nervous? Would you be worried about what your peers would think of you? Would your hands be as soaking wet and sweaty as mine were? And while you're sitting there, you're overthinking everything, you hear this. All right, group 6, last group, it's time to go. Instantly, you're back in reality. It's your time to present. Get up, big boy. So the presentation begins. My team members are presenting one by one. And finally, it's my turn to speak. And at this point, my anxiety levels are through the roof. My mind is racing. I'm thinking about,
Does my hair look okay? I wonder if they can see my puffy nipples through this shirt, or what if I say the wrong thing? What if I screw this up? Is everybody gonna laugh at me?
blah, blah, blah. I'm just overthinking everything. And I look around the class and everyone has directed their attention at me. So I take a step forward and this is what I say.
The U.S. Navy was founded and began in. I can't even talk.
That's literally what I did. I had one presentation, one slide to give, and that's what I got up and said. And of course, everyone bursts out laughing. And I'm sitting there, my face is all red. I'm looking at the people in my group and they're looking at me. I remember making eye contact with this guy. He's like, dude, are you okay? What's wrong with you? And even he's laughing at me, clowning me up there. So I was absolutely humiliated. Needless to say, I did not impress any of my crushes in that class. I made a total and complete clown of myself, and I did not get a good grade on my class presentation. Now, you might be asking yourself, why was he so nervous? And I'll tell you why. At that time, I was over 300 pounds. So I was super insecure. I was always in my own head, and I was always overthinking every aspect of my life. The second thing was that I was addicted to pornography. And at the time, I was probably watching it 5 or 6 times a day. And a lot of people don't realize this, but it completely rewires your brain. It causes you to overthink a lot of things, but it also makes you super socially awkward. And the third and most important reason as to why I made a clown out of myself was I had no social skills, right? Nobody had ever taught me how to communicate. I didn't even know how to speak to one person, let alone give a class presentation to a room full of people. So in case you couldn't tell by that incredible highlight of my high school career, my life in high school was pretty bad. I remember always being in my own head, always feeling super insecure, worried that people would make fun of me, that they would bully me, and worst of all, I never took any responsibility for my own actions, and I always played the victim. I'd say things like,
oh, I'm just fat because I have a bad metabolism, guys. Like, it's genetics. Like, that's why I'm fat. Or I'd say, oh, well, those guys who are, like, jacked up and who have abs, like, they're on SARMs. Like, it's not natural. Like, if they were natural, they'd look like me.
or I'd say,
those people, they don't like me because there's something wrong with them. Like, it's not my fault. Like, I haven't done anything wrong. Those people are just mean.
but the truth is, I was in that position where I was 300 pounds, I was socially awkward, I had no friends, and I was addicted to porn and masturbation because of my own actions. I put myself in that position. And believe me, it took me a very long time to climb out of that hole that I had put myself in. But right now, I want to give you some advice that I would have given my 16-year-old self. Number one, stop playing the victim. The reason that you're at the bottom, where you don't have friends, or you're awkward, or you're addicted to porn, is because of your own actions. If you're fat, it's because you eat too much. If you're awkward, it's because you don't get in social situations enough and you haven't learned how to communicate with people. And if you're single, it's because women don't find you attractive. So you need to put in some self-development, some work on yourself. Number two, you need to learn how to communicate effectively. A book that you need to read is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's by Dale Carnegie. It's going to teach you everything that you need to know on how to speak, how to communicate, how to make people feel heard, and how to build relationships with people. You need to read this book. It'll change your life. If I was really struggling with communication, I would go on YouTube and I would just watch very effective, like, motivational speakers. People like Tony Robbins or Donald Trump or even Andrew Tate, and watch how they articulate their words. Study how they speak and how they use words and how they get people motivated and how they empower people and they paint pictures and visions and they get people fired up to all work towards like one goal. And most importantly, if you want to appear more confident in your speech, you have to know what you're talking about. Confidence comes from certainty. The third piece of advice that I would give my younger self is to become disciplined. You need to learn how to do hard things, especially whenever you don't feel like it. The best piece of advice that I could give you is to develop some kind of routine where you're consistently doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's going to build discipline, but it's also going to build up your self-confidence because you're going to realize that you're the kind of guy who can show up day in and day out for yourself, right? You're going to build a lot of self-worth just realizing, hey, when I tell myself I'm going to wake up and go to the gym in the morning, I do that. When I tell myself, hey, I'm not going to eat the junk food, I'm going to stay consistent with my macros and my diet, that builds confidence. Right? Whenever you turn away from the video games and the porn and you don't do those things because you know it's gonna negatively affect your future self, you're gonna feel more confident within. Like, hey, I show up for myself. I do what I tell myself I'm gonna do. I can believe in myself. You do not want to be the guy who's 30 years old, who still struggles with crippling social anxiety, who can't hold eye contact with people, or the guy who can't develop real relationships with the people around him. You don't want to be that guy. You were not created to be some NPC that just goes through the motions. God created you for so much more. You were created to be a leader. You were created to be the kind of guy who can light up a room, the kind of guy who can get a big group of people together all working towards a common goal, right? The kind of man that can start a movement, something that could change the world. Imagine this for a second. I want you to imagine that you learn how to communicate effectively. I I want you to imagine that you actually took the advice that I'm giving you in this video, you became more charismatic, right? You developed yourself as a man, you went all in on self-improvement, and you got yourself to a position where you can lead a movement, like you can actually draw people towards yourself. And I want you to picture that you use these newfound communication skills to change somebody's life. Like maybe you used to struggle with an addiction like porn, or you struggle with crippling social anxiety, and you were able to use what you learned in this video to communicate in a way where you literally made someone's life better. Like, wouldn't that be so fulfilling? To be able to use the skills that you've learned to make the world a better place, to use the skills that God has blessed you with to make our world better. I want you to imagine how much better your life would be if you could change someone's entire reality with your own words. To be able to free them from their addictions, free them from anxiety, free them from depression. You would change their life. Now the real question is, are you going to learn how to communicate? If you made it all the way till the end of this video, you've definitely earned your spot in our brotherhood. We only want the strongest men, the longest attention spans in here. So welcome in. You can hit that subscribe button and join our Discord community. It's the top link in the description. The community is filled with like-minded Christian men who are all on self-improvement, guys who are looking to improve every single aspect of their life. So if that sounds like you, click the top link in the description and I'll see you there. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you learned something. I hope you learn to communicate effectively. I hope God blesses you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.